Welcome to Retail Confessions. I am El Señor Bla Bla Blá, your host in this space where week after week we will explore the most surprising, chaotic, and sometimes unbelievable stories from the retail world. Get ready for tales ranging from dramatic to terrifying, situations that will test the patience of any human being, and unexpected twists that will leave you speechless. Here, nothing is off limits. What happens in the back room, customer tangles, and anecdotes that only someone who has lived the retail life could tell. So, make yourself comfortable, open your ears, and let yourself be carried away by these confessions that will undoubtedly leave you far from indifferent. Let's get started. The day everything changed. I worked for 5 years in a retail store, one of those that sells a bit of everything: clothes, appliances, toys. I always thought I had seen it all, from customers trying to return clearly used products to others who got mad because we wouldn't apply non existent discounts. However, nothing prepared me for what happened that Thursday afternoon. It was 4 p.m. and the store was quite calm. I was at my register, alternating between attending to the few customers and tidying up some nearby products. Suddenly, a man ran in, breathing heavily and with wide, frantic eyes. He came straight to me and, almost out of breath, whispered, "Please help me. They are following me." My instinct was to look around. No one else seemed to notice the situation. I asked if he wanted me to call the police, but he begged me not to. He said he just needed to hide for a few minutes. I don't know why, but something in his eyes made me believe him. I quickly led him to the back room behind a pile of boxes. My boss wasn't there, so I didn't have to give immediate explanations. I returned to my post, trying to act normal, although my heart was racing. Not even 5 minutes passed when two men entered the store. There were suits, but something about their demeanor made my skin crawl. They approached me and showed me the picture of the man that I helped. They asked me if I have seen it. I shook my head, trying to stay calm. They stared at me for a few seconds that felt eternal. Finally, they turned around and walked through the store, checking each aisle. I tried to appear busy, randomly labeling products. After a few minutes, the man left the store. I went to the back room and found the man curled up among the boxes, visibly relieved. He thanked me over and over, but he never told me who he was or why they were chasing him. He left through the back door and I never saw him again. For days, I wondered if I had done the right thing. What if I helped a criminal? What if those men were police or something worse? Eventually, I decided to let it go. Sometimes in the chaos of retail, you become more than just an employee. Sometimes, even unwillingly, you become part of a story much bigger than you can imagine. The demands of the regional manager. I worked for almost a decade as a manager in a retail store. It was a big box store, and I was proud to keep the team motivated and the store running like clockwork. However, what drained me the most wasn't difficult customers, but the absurd demands of the regional manager, a man named Javier. Javier was one of those directors who seemed to live in a parallel world, where everything was possible with just a snap of the fingers. Once, in mid-December, with the store packed with holiday shoppers, he called me at 9 p.m. and said, "I want the entire store decorated as a medieval market by tomorrow, with tents, wooden signs, and employees in costume. And I don't want to spend a cent." I stayed silent, waiting for him to laugh and say that it was a joke, but he didn't. I tried to explain that we barely had time to restock, no budget, and the employees were already at their limit with overtime, but he only replied, "That's not my problem, Fernando. Make it happen." I hung up the phone with trembling hands. My team was already exhausted, and now I had to ask them for a miracle. In the end, I convinced some of the employees to stay late. We brought in old cardboards and fabrics, painted signs by hand, and made improvised costumes. The next morning, the store looked more like a neighborhood carnival than a medieval market, but we did our best. When Javier arrived, he didn't even look at the effort. He walked through the store, frowned, and said, "It's not what I had in mind, but I suppose it will do. Now make sure sale goes up 30% today." After months of similar situations, I decided to quit. It wasn't easy, but I felt like I was betraying myself and my team. The worst part was finding out later on that Javier had been promoted to an even higher position. Apparently, in the corporate world, Absurd ideas are sometimes mistaken for creativity. Today, every time I enter a retail store, I can't help but thinking at the employees and wondering how many of them are dealing with a Javier behind the scenes. Confession of a restaurant employee. The strangest order in my life. My name is Luis. I'm Mexican and I've been working at a burger restaurant in the United States for a couple of years. It's not my dream job, but it pays the bills and helps me improve my English. I've seen it all. Friendly customers, grumpy ones, confused ones, but nothing prepared me for what happened that Tuesday afternoon. It was around 3:30 p.m., the dead hour between lunch and dinner. I was cleaning tables when a woman walked into this restaurant. She wore a bright colored dress and white brimmed hat and huge sunglasses that barely showed her face. She walked erratically as if she had neither hurry nor direction. "Hello, how can I help you?" I asked her, giving her my best employee smile. "I want a burger, but without bread and without meat," she replied, taking off her sunglasses and revealing very white, glassy eyes. I thought maybe she was on a diet or perhaps a vegetarian. "Sure, do you want me to do just the vegetables? We can make you a salad." No, I want the burger, but I want it upside down, and the ketchup has to be invincible." I didn't know what to respond to that. I looked at my coworker in the kitchen who gave me a look that said, "Good luck with that." I tried to clarify. "Do you want me to put the ingredients in reverse order or the burger to be upside down?" "Yes," she said with absolute seriousness. "And the cheese has to be imaginary. I don't like real cheese." I went to the kitchen and explained the situation to my coworker, who just shrugged. "We prepared a burger without bread or meat, basically a container of lettuce, tomato, and onion. I put it upside down with the ingredients on the plate and a piece of lettuce on top as leaf." When I served it to her, the woman looked at me with a deeply disappointed expression. "This isn't upside down. Everything is ground," she said, and then began to move the vegetables with her finger as if expecting to find something hidden underneath. "Is there anything else I can do?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Yes, I need a straw to drink the air. The air here is dense." I brought her a straw and she started sipping an empty space. The sound was uncomfortable, a never-ending shh that filled the nearly empty restaurant. After a couple of minutes, she stood up, left a $20 bill on the table, and left without further explanation. My coworker and I looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or be worried. I still don't know if the woman was under the influence of something or if she lived in her own alternate reality. All I know is that afternoon I learned that in the fast food business, reality can be as surreal as the customer standing in front of you. Confession of a wig shop employee. The unexpected tangle. I used to work at a small wig shop in a shopping mall. The store was colorful and always smelled like haircare products. We had wigs of all colors and styles. Long, short, curly, straight, natural, and extravagant. My boss, Ernest, was a short and always impeccably dressed man, with an almost obsessive need for the wigs on the mannequins to be perfectly ordered. One afternoon, a customer came in who seemed to be in a hurry from the very start. She wore huge sunglasses and a silk scarf on her head. She approached the counter and, without even saying hello, blurted out, "I need a blonde wig, but not just any blonde. I want the exact blonde of the light of a Tuscan sunset." Ernest, who never said no to a challenge, smiled widely. "Of course, ma'am. Let me show you some options." The customer started trying on wigs, while Ernest brought her models that were increasingly lighter, more golden, more ashy, but none were the Tuscan blonde the customer was looking for. The tension grew. The customer pulled off each wig with more force, and Ernest's face started losing color. "This isn't hard, you know," the woman said. "Have you never seen a sunset in Tuscany?" "Ma'am, I'm an expert in wigs, not geography," Ernest responded, without losing his composure. The discussion intensified. Then the customer began describing the sunset with almost poetic detail, while Ernest, catalog in hand, tried to decipher the exact color. The scene turned surreal. Among mannequins with multicolored hair, a woman reciting the Italian dusk and a man flipping through wig catalogs with the passion of a scientist. Suddenly, the customer fell silent. She grabbed a fluorescent orange wig and put it on her head. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. "This is it," she said. "This is the color of the sunset in Tuscany. How did I not see it before?" Ernest blinked a couple of times, not sure if he was being taken for a fool, literally, but the woman went to the register, took her card, and paid without any hesitation. While bagging the wig, I couldn't help but ask, "Is it for a special event?" She leaned toward me and in a low voice replied, "Actually, I have no idea what a sunset in Tuscany looks like, but it was the only way to drive my ex crazy." She winked and left. Ernest and I were left in silence. Then, without any warning, we burst into laughter. No one could believe that the whole thing had been a show just to irritate someone. Since then, whenever a customer makes a strange request, Ernest and I look at each other and say, "Tuscan sunset?" And we love knowing that in the world of wigs, just like in life, nothing is what it seems. The day I sold a TV to the strangest customer. I work in one of those stores where you can buy everything from furniture to electronics, the kind of everyone knows for its bright colors, credit promotions, and ownership by the same guy who owns a major TV network in Mexico. My daily job was to sell TVs, video game consoles, and sound systems. Most of the time, I dealt with customers who wanted deals or asked 1,000 times about interest-free credit. However, nothing prepared me for what happened that Tuesday afternoon. The store was quiet when a man walked in very slowly. He wore a white shirt, a bit wrinkled, and worn out jeans. The first thing I noticed was his stare. His eyes were wide open and he barely blinked. He approached me directly, without even looking at the products, and said, "I need a TV, but not just any TV." Nothing strange so far. Many people have specific preferences, so I asked, "What kind of TV are you looking for? Size, brand, special features?" "I want one that can be spied on," he said without hesitation. I thought I had misheard. "Excuse me?" "Yes, I want a TV with no cameras, microphones, or internet connections. I don't want them to see me." I tried not to judge. It wasn't the first time a customer had made a strange request. I showed him some basic models without smart features, explaining that these had no Wi-Fi or cameras. However, every time I showed him one, he would lean over and sniff it. Yes, sniffed it. Then he pressed his ear against the screen as if expecting to hear something. "Not this one, it smells like surveillance," he said about a 32-inch TV. The situation started to make me uncomfortable, but I tried to keep my composure. Finally, he chose an old model, the kind hardly anyone buys anymore. While I was preparing the purchase, he whispered to me, "Don't wrap it, if the bag is plastic, the waves get trapped." What followed was even more surreal. At the register, he pulled out a crumpled brown paper bag, the kind for groceries, and put the TV inside himself. He asked not to get a receipt because barcodes are traceable. When he finally left the store, the other employees approached me. No one had seen anything of what had happened. It was as if the guy had only existed for me. I went to check the security cameras, but to my surprise, they were disconnected. The manager scolded me, thinking I had turned them off myself. The following week, a police officer came by asking about a man matching the exact description of the customer. It turned out that he had been entering different electronic stores around the city, always with the same behavior. No one knew where he lived or what he did with so many TVs, but he hadn't committed any. Confession of a San Angelin employee. The dull customer. I work as a waiter at the San Angelin, the restaurant in the Mexican pavilion at Epcot in Disney World. It was an interesting job, always surrounded by happy tourists, mariachi music, and the atmosphere of an eternal evening under the Chichen Itza pyramid. I knew that at Disney, anything out of the ordinary could happen, but nothing prepared me for the day I met the dull customer. It was a quiet Tuesday when a man in his 50s arrived at the restaurant. He wore an outdated suit, his hair perfectly combed, and, most strikingly, he carried an antique porcelain doll in his arms. The doll wore a Victorian dress, had curly hair, and glass eyes that seemed to follow you wherever you went. The man carefully sat her in the chair across from him, adjusted her dress, and to everyone's surprise, began speaking to her softly and lovingly. "Are you comfortable, my love?" he said, as he placed a napkin on the doll's lap. I approached him with my best Disney magic smile and started taking his order. He ordered mole enchiladas for himself and for the doll cochinita pibil tacos with lemonade. It wasn't the first time I had a peculiar customer, so I followed protocol and took the order without questioning anything. Everything was fine until I brought the food. I gently placed the plate in front of the doll and the man frowned at me. "What do you think you are doing?" he asked. "I'm just serving the food, sir." "I saw it, you were flirting with my wife," he said, pointing at the doll. I tried to stay calm, apologized, and walked away, but the problem didn't end there. He asked for another waiter, so my colleague Sophia took over the table. As soon as she approached, the man stood up, offended. "This woman is mocking my wife. I saw her laughing while taking the order." Sophia, who was always very professional, gently denied it and tried to calm him down. However, the man demanded to see the manager. Our manager, with the patience of a saint, tried to mediate the situation, but the customer wouldn't budge. Eventually, it was decided not to charge him to avoid further issues, following Disney's customer rules and satisfaction policies. We thought it was sober, but no. The next day, we learned that the man had gone to guest relations to file a formal complaint. He claimed that the San Angeline staff had been hostile and disrespectful for him and his wife. He even said we had made derogatory comments about his marriage. The complaint was so detailed and dramatic that the human resources team of Walt Disney World called all of us for an empathy training session. To avoid problems, the restaurant decided that if the customer returned, he would be given a private space to enjoy his meal without interference. The most incredible part was discovering that this man came every year, always with the same doll, always with the same story of jealousy and offenses. It was almost a tradition and a bizarre show in the most magical place on earth. After that experience, I learned that in Disney, reality can be as surreal as any attraction in the park. And above all, that you have to know how to smile even when the gaze of a porcelain doll seems to judge your every move. Confession of Antonia, the day that the entire team at the coffee shop quit. Antonia had been a supervisor for over 2 years at a bustling coffee shop, one of those belonging to the multinational with the siren logo. She was passionate about her work. She loved the smell of coffee, the dynamic with regular customers, and the camaraderie with her co-workers. Everything was going well until Mariana, the new manager, arrived. Mariana was chaos on legs. From day one, she made it clear she had no intention of getting involved in the store's daily tasks and operations. She spent most of her time in the office swiping through Tinder and shamelessly showing employees her chats with her matches. Antonia tried to remain professional, but it was difficult when Mariana would burst into the beverage prep area with her phone in hand. "Look, this guy wants to take me out to dinner. Do you think he will like a bad girl?" The atmosphere became even tenser when Mariana established what she called the Taylor Swift Day, which quickly turned into the eternity of Taylor Swift. From opening to closing, only the same songs played over and over. It didn't matter if it was a heartbreaking ballad or a upbeat pop song. The result was the same. The employees were on the verge of madness. "Yesterday, I dreamed Taylor Swift asked me for a triple latte, and I threw it up at her," confessed Raul, a new barista with deep bag under his eyes. Aside from the musical torture, Mariana was an expert in irresponsible delegation. Practically all of her work fell on Antonia. Inventory orders, reports, meeting with suppliers. Antonia did it all while Mariana applied makeup for her business dates. The breakout point came on a Thursday when an attractive customer walked into the cafe. Mariana dropped her apron to the floor, fixed her hair, and sat at the table with him. "You all keep working, I handle this one," she said, winking. Fed up with the situation, Antonia decided to document everything. She gathered proof that she was doing Mariana's work, recorded inappropriate comments, and spoke to her co-workers to collect their testimonies. With all that material, she sent an email to corporate. After all, the company always preached the importance of a healthy work environment and respect. One day, Jessica, the district manager, came to the store for a visit and was an unexpected event. When she arrived, Antonia felt a ray of hope. Finally, someone would restore order. However, when Jessica came out of the office after a private meeting with Mariana, she didn't bring a disciplinary demeanor but rather a celebratory one. "Congratulate Mariana," announced Jessica. "She has been promoted to regional manager." Antonia and her coworkers were left in silence. Leadership? Innovative? It seemed like a joke. Mariana, with a triumphant smile, said goodbye to everyone, but not without making clear, "Now you all know who is in charge." That same week, Raul was the first one to quit. Two more baristas followed, then the cleaning guy, and finally Antonia. In less than a month, the entire team was gone. No one wanted to stay in a place where real effort wasn't valued and mediocrity was rewarded. The day Antonia handed in her resignation, Jessica barely looked at her. To her, the staff turnover was just a number on a spreadsheet. As Antonia left the store behind, she heard Taylor Swift's voice one last time singing, "We are never ever getting back together." And for the first time, the lyrics made perfect sense to her. These are just a few of the many stories that retail employees have lived to tell. Stay tuned for more incredibly funny and sometimes unsettling tales in the next episode of Retail Confessions. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and share it with all your friends. And if you have a retail story worth telling, drop it in the comments or send it to us on social media. Remember, in the world of retail, every day is a new adventure, and here there will always be room for those confessions no one else dares to tell. See you next week with more stories and more confessions, and until then, may your shopping be pleasant and your customer patient. See you next time. Bye bye!